Well, welcome back. This is the second video outlining my written recordings of my life in King Alfred School, Burnham-on-Sea in years 10 and 11, which we called fourth year and fifth year, where I started to be distracted because I found some of the topics a bit difficult. So when I see children distracting, I do try and tell them off in a gentle way, because I do realise that I have a memory and I remember vividly how I behaved in school. History, fourth year, the Battle of Blenheim, a detailed, colourful map. Now, I loved history, and it's one of my favourite subjects, and I tell children that it's a cheap subject for schools to ask me to teach because I'm so old, I teach from memory and I don't need to use books. There you are, the War of Jenkins' Ear. Lots of different topics there, some which are used today. Maths, Mr. Miller. Here you are, he's talking about Pythagoras on the 10th of February. That would be 1969, 1970, February 1970. Pythagoras. Now, I did understand that the sum of the square on the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares on the other two sides. So when there was a puzzle on Radio 4 the other week, if you flew from Jakarta to Dakar, Senegal, and then you flew from Dakar north to London, how far is it back to Dakar to Jakarta, Indonesia? And I thought, that's the Pythagoras' theorem there. And Mr. Miller, I can see him now, he'd be writing with a felt pen on these polythene rollers with a projector over the top, just talking us through it all the time. And he said, a CSE grade 4 is average. And I realised when I left school it was useless. So you can see some use of a ruler and some use of scruffy freehand, which I tell children these days, always use a ruler to make your work posher. Mr. Miller again. However, we were allowed to write on our book covers if we covered them. And here I've got the Everton football team lineup for 1969. Alan Ball, Goodison Park, December 1969, December the 12th, 1969. This is the maths homework book with Mr. Miller. It says, insufficient evidence, poor style, untidy. So I was taking a little less pride in some of these topics. Mr. Miller again, not a very tidy presentation in maths. Didn't understand a lot of what he was teaching us. You must keep the sum complete on every line. Bitty. No! Exclamation mark. So I left school with useless grades in maths, something like a CSE grade 4, which must be equivalent to about GCSE 1 or 2 today. Yeah, geography exam, 79, yeah, fourth year, 79, first in the class. So I knew where my strengths lay and where I wasn't going to be very successful at all. And here we're looking at hanging valleys and a horst. And these are geographical features that I've seen on my world travels. Yep, geography. We've got the hills of the southwest of England, all shaded in. Now we were given a very useful curriculum in those days. I can't fault it at all. 13 out of 20, 26 out of 40. And that is a story. A good simple toy which I like making for a child is a cricket set. This I made in woodwork, which turned out to be a good game. More test papers written in primitive style compared to today. The Mendip Hills and about the city of Bath, Blagdon. That's local geography. There is a book I have. It was geographical field studies where we went to Minehead, for example. That hopefully will come up. Helpful Higman. That's how I described Mr. Higman, who was brilliant at teaching both maths and English and a great sense of humour. Sines, cosine rules. What on earth did that to mean at the time? It meant probably nothing. Oh, I've written on the book here, Mr. P.M. Higman. Yes, I've got graph paper here. There you are, brilliant. Incomplete. Graphs. The children still do these down now. They plot these scores on a graph, don't they? I remember they're still doing it. Let's have some more interesting books. Not very interested in maths even today. Geography. The Winds of the World. Horse latitudes, doldrums, tropical Cancer, wind direction throughout the world, different times a year. The tundra. Pressure systems, monsoons. They are monsoons. And here we've got the temperate mixed forest lands, followed by how depressions form. Geography again. The Mississippi lowlands. History. Autumn term, 5th year, American War of Independence. Now this went on for ages. Now I do remember some of those lessons. The Battle of Valley Forge, George Washington, Jacobite Rebellion, the change to industrial England. Now I was in the 5th year here, year 11, and I did attend college, Bridgewater Technical College, once in the afternoon on the school visit to do a course, and I just wasn't interested, so I said, please can I stay behind in school on my own and do history. And Mr. Langhorne just gave me chapters to copy out in books and made sure I understood the stories. And I got a O-level grade B, which was a pretty good grade, and a geography grade B. Now this is it. Michael Turner, Geography Fieldwork, Miss Davis and Miss K. Davis and Mr. D. Bunting. We did like to learn the Christian names of teachers in those days, which children still want to know today. And here we've got a diagram of Minehead and details about the Quantock Hills. I remember Mr. Bunting still pointing out pebbles on the beach and saying how they were smoothed down from jagged rocks and how they'd been banging into each other and smooth themselves out. Kilve, Steart Flats. Very interesting, learning geography for local area. Children still do that now, don't they? Mr. Higman. And here I've written the goalkeeper of Everton, Andy Rankin. Leeds 3, Everton 2. I don't know how I was allowed to get away with defacing this book. Football crazy. Again, a little bit scruffy. I got 1970 here, written down. A lot of pencil work, looks a bit boring, untidy. Homework. And Mr. Higman, writing in green ink. He told me 18 months ago he got ticked off for using green because red was the fierce colour that teachers always use, and he was a pioneer to use green, and that's what teachers are encouraged to do these days, use red less often. One of my rarer efforts there of making the diagram neat using a ruler in maths. I've lost my reports for years 10 and 11. They were different than the one I'm going to read out to you in the next video. Here we've got a woodwork folder, a woodwork file. Huge paper. What was it called in those days? It wasn't A4 paper. Can't remember what it was now. And here I've drawn a picture of a planed shaved wood. And I got a GCSE grade 3. I got a CSE grade 1, which was an O-level grade C. So it was the lowest grade of O-level. It was an O-level pass, a CSE grade 1. I cycled to school and Mr. Barwell said to me, the woodwork teacher, "Looks like, Michael, you got a grade 1 CSE." And I've still got the furniture I made at school. I could include that in another video, couldn't I? English, 5th year. 14th of November 1969, writing an essay about Christmas. And one of our English teachers was called Miss Lamb, quite a nice looking lady. And she said to me, "Michael, you'll make a good school teacher." But I took little notice of it because I just wasn't academic or from that type of family to drive me. Oh, the story of the Spanish Armada, 16th of September. Please, sir, I want more. That's to do with Oliver Twist. Chemistry. Oh, that was a waste of time. Mr. Strickland, 7th of September 1970, in the 5th year, year 11. He talked us into it by taking us on to the Mendips for some trips, but it was the work you had to do with the rocks when you got back that I found very boring. So here we got water of crystallization, 1st of October 1970. I just found chemistry totally boring, waste of 2 years, rubbish grade. Technical drawing was another one. Some of my subjects I chose were a waste of time. Oh yeah, this is interesting. This isn't my work. This was notes given to us by Mr. Nash because Paul Burt, Ian Dumblevan and me, we were selected to represent the school on a school quiz on Harlech Television, ITV in those days, Harlech. It was called Is That a Fact? And you had to compete against other schools. We were pitted against Wallace Scout in Weston-super-Mare and we won the televised quiz about which school knew more about their local area. And just to finish off, I've got CSE exam papers that I sat. Geography, history, maths, technical drawing, all from 1971. Now my grades, I achieved O-level GCSE quality passes in history, geography and woodwork. And that was it. No maths, English, no chemistry. And I left school getting a job on a building site, scraping cement off windows because I just didn't have the qualifications to get a good job. So I'll do 2 more videos. One's going to be on my school report up to the end of Key Stage 3 and what I made in woodwork. I hope you've enjoyed this honest recollection of my good to mediocre days as a student at King Alfred School, Burnham-on-Sea, Somerset. Ciao for now, and all the kids watching, here's the catchphrase you've all been waiting for: stay chipper.